As a responsible person with growing concerns for your privacy and personal liberty, you want to know where we're headed and what you can do about it. We ask the experts what you need to do to take prudent and responsible action to safeguard your family's wealth and well-being, and what basic first steps will help you to be aware and prepared. ReluctantPreppers.com.
Welcome back, Reluctant Preppers. We have a first-time guest tonight. Daniel Brigman, founder of Numanna Foods, is here with us on Reluctant Preppers. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
The way that we got connected with you was an unexpected one. We have a longtime associate and frequent guest on our program, David Morgan, otherwise known as the Silver Guru, who we've met at multiple conferences, and we've seen him for years now on various videos with Mike Maloney and others who are experts in the precious metals field. And it was interesting enough because the first time we ever had David Morgan on our channel, the topic that he was here to talk about was his recommended priority list for preparedness-minded people. And the first thing that came out of his mouth was, he said, "You might find it surprising for a silver bug like me," he says, "but the first thing I'm going to tell you on your priority list is not gold or silver." And he went on to talk about the importance of storing food because of the urgency that's needed in any kind of a disruptive situation, whether it's from natural disasters or man-made causes or whatever. And as the years went by, he's continued to bring up that theme consistently. And less than a year ago, he brought up for the first time that he had encountered your particular line of emergency and preparedness foods, and he was speaking highly of the flavor and so on. But I wanted to get you on so that we could just hear it directly from you, and so that our viewers could get some of their questions answered about it. But I have to ask first, right off the bat, is how in the world does someone get in to be a premier provider of emergency storage food? Because that is not an obvious career path to most people.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if we got enough time for that. But again,
you can give us just the Reader's Digest version, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. Well, probably like many of the people that's listening, probably all of them, I was interested in preparedness. I was interested in self-sufficiency. My grandparents grew up in the Depression. They kind of instilled, just by osmosis, you kind of pick up some of their thought processes and self-reliance and what it means to be an American and those kind of things. So that kind of ethic of self-reliance was passed on. And as I got older, had my own family, I saw the economic turmoil America was going through, and that made me a little more concerned. And so I started to look at some of the easy to prepare meals that were out there. And frankly, my family were a little disappointed, a lot disappointed in some. The taste wasn't very good. Some was okay. They were full of chemicals, and it had a lot of things that we were trying to avoid at the time. I don't want to feed my kids a bunch of junk, so why would I want to do it in an emergency? So I thought there had to be an alternative, but there really wasn't out there. And so I don't know, really, through a series of events, I've had an entrepreneurial mind, and this is something I was passionate about. And so the two just met, and, voila, pretty soon Numanna was started, and we were making really some of the best storable food around.
And you've grown, I take it, because you're one of the premier providers now. What can you give us just an understanding of the scope of operations as far as how far-flung your customer base is and what kind of business you actually do?
Oh, wow. We've, when we started, I have to laugh, and I reflect back a lot when I look at my wife and I think about, we started this in our basement, and we were putting the buckets together. We had the food packages, and from there, I don't know where the times went, and we just really have grown. People have really been accepting of what we're doing and really love what we do. Definitely all 50 states we've sold, many, many buckets to all 50 states, Alaska, Hawaii included, many of the countries. A lot of them, probably the biggest would be Canada, some in Mexico, but Canada much more. We've done a little bit of shipping to Europe. It's a little bit of cost prohibitive, but we still have had customers that want to go to Europe, Puerto Rico, some other places in South America, even Chile. Really I don't know if every country, but quite a few of the countries in South America, we've been all over, and we've become a national brand, really because people have shared our passion. They want something that tastes good. They want something that's not full of chemicals. It's GMO free. They want some organic options. They want something better, because what we put in our body and what we have for food, it became not just a preparedness emergency disaster thought. It's like, well, what about, next Saturday? What about next Saturday if I'm late for baseball practice with our children? Can I make a quick meal? And so the dynamic changed. What people thought about food storage has been a mission for us to change. It's not just sitting in the corner collecting dust, break glass in case of emergency kind of thing. This is food that you would be happy to eat tomorrow or 10 years from now in the middle of a disaster. And it's flexible and easy enough to fit in with everybody's schedule. So we've been nationally accepted and growing, and a growing concern because of our focus.
When we get into preparedness steps, and we've purchased as a family quite a few types of emergency and storage food, what are some of the mistakes, some of the most common food storage mistakes that ordinary people and even preparedness-minded people make, in your view? I mean, you must have come across a lot of people who've been this may not be their first run at this, trying to set aside some food for a rainy day. So, what would you prioritize as some of the most important mistakes that people are prone to if they just follow their own guide?
Wow, that's a very good question. Let me think for a second. I think number one, along with food, most of our food, the food that we sell, you don't need any preparation. You can just eat it right out of the bag, some granola, some different things. But most of the food is you have to add water. You have to boil water and then add the ingredients. So it's ready to fix, but it's not ready to eat, at least most of it. So the biggest thing I would encourage everybody to think of is water. The first thing is, what are you going to do water-wise? And this question is much broader and bigger than just an emergency situation, because you see things like Flint, Michigan, and repeatedly all these municipalities throughout the country, their infrastructure, was put in 50, 75, 80, 100, whatever years ago. And because of lack of funding, because of the economy, what have you, because of lack of really the will to do it in these municipalities, these infrastructures are failing. Flint, Michigan is a perfect example. Your water concern is not only an emergency concern, it's an everyday concern. And I would be very leery and concerned about the water coming out of my tap today because of the chemicals, the fluoride, the lead, the arsenic, yada, 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 even well water, what have you. I'd be very concerned about that, and not only for today and in emergency. So the first thing is, what are you going to do about clean water today and in the future? And then from there, people assume, I think, that they need less than they really do. I mean, if you look honestly at a situation, if you're preparing, and I tell people to take it in segments. If you have zero preparation and you want to get involved, well, it's hard to go from zero to, some people are prepared for multiple years for all their family.
Yeah.
Well, that's overwhelming. That's like taking a bite of a big elephant. So you got to start somewhere. So I tell everybody to make goals. Do not procrastinate and let the bigness, I can't think of a better word, of the task overwhelm you and paralyze you. Start with, hey, I want to go for a week. So if the power was out for a week, or if we were, what have you, and then go to a month, and then go to 3 months, and then go to 6, and then a year. And so I think that I tell people to take bites like that, and people I see have different reasons for not ever getting to the year. It's because they never took the first step. Yeah. So and then buy what you like to eat. That's one of the big focuses on our food. We by no means do we think that we're the only food option. I think we're the best storable food type option. I firmly believe that. But there's other things. Think about what your family wants to eat, what they like. And then you get it becomes not this emergency game. It becomes a self-sufficiency, a root cellar, just like my great-grandma. She had a root cellar. It becomes that kind of mentality and an independence thing and a way to really bless your family's life and to enhance them. And it's a financial investment that you can't lose. So that would be my 3 things to focus on.
One thing that you touched on very briefly as you were talking about pure water was the ability to boil water or heat water to prepare food. I know we had the advantage of a large grocery store in our town that went out of business, and I bought all of the canned heat, the Sterno little cans of heat. So I've got a whole shelf full of that stuff that they had. But that's something that people can think about is if your electricity is out, or heaven forbid if your natural gas went out, what are you going to do to boil water, even if you do have water, so that you can really cook with it? And the other thing you mentioned, I had to laugh, was when you talked about the how easy it is to get overwhelmed at the magnitude of the task and just feel because it's such a big cliff in front of you that never mind, I won't even take one step. It reminded me a couple years ago, my son, who's an elite athlete, talked us into, me and my other 2 sons, into doing one of these very extraneous obstacle races with him. And the amount of training that I did was severely inadequate to the task. And we showed up, and I had, at the time we showed up for the race, I had run a maximum at a time of like 1.5 miles, and this was 11 miles up and down hills, carrying buckets full of gravel and going through mud and all kinds of things. And I just came out, I was just a cripple when I came out from the cramping and everything that I had. But so that was one of the things I learned is, you got to condition, take a step at a time, and you can't just expect to go from 0 to running a marathon. You got to just take it a step at a time. So that's the next thing.
That's a funny story. Water is, you mentioned water and cooking food. We sell on our website, Numanna.com. We've looked really hard for filters, and we've been extremely picky because we don't like fluoride. And getting fluoride out of water is extremely difficult, and there's many filters. Some of the biggest names out there, I'm not going to disparage them. They're testing, they have certain claims that, frankly, from what I've seen, from what I've researched extensively, I don't know if they meet those claims. And we've searched long and hard, and we found a filter that is I think, the best gravity-type filter out there, the DuraFlow filter that we sell on our website, and different gallon sizes. And it's just, you want to have confidence in an emergency, really every day. I use it, every day for water now because I don't want all that crap in my water. But in an emergency, with all the bacteria, with all the dysentery, all the problems potential, you have to be able to trust the water that you get. And so there's very few ways that you can get pure water, and we feel very confident in the filters that we sell. As far as cooking, I get that question all the time. The little things that you said, hey, look here and there and find, sterno or propane or little gas grills or what have you. Worst comes to worst. If you can make a fire and you have a pot, you can boil water over a pot, just like, camping kind of style. Worst comes to worst.
As you look at the key considerations that people should keep in mind when they're building their emergency backup food supply, you mentioned some of the pitfalls to avoid, but if you could turn it around and just kind of go down your hit list of what do you consider the top priority considerations that people should keep in mind on the positive side? Something
easy to use and flexible. You got to think about, am I staying in my house? Am I leaving? Am I, what have you? And like I said before, store something that you like. If you don't like it or feel like your family's going to like it, then why are you storing it? I think that's probably one of the biggest things is have it part of really kind of your rotation. Every so often you should be eating out of it anyway. You're going to do much better. It's going to be a much better investment. It will be an investment, not just, a car insurance that you never use, right? You can't lose if you make it part of your regular rotation. Everybody knows the price of food's going up. So it's a no-lose investment. how many no-lose investments do you have in this world? You can't lose. You know the price of food is going up. You make it part of your thing. I think that's probably the biggest. Store something that you like and think about the different circumstances, ease, transportation, and those kind of things, I think would be number one.
When people are choosing the varieties of foods that they want to store, what thought processes or what criteria do you think that they should reflect on or consider when they're choosing the specific types of food to store?
Well, there's a big, you talk about the types of food we have. Now we have ready-to-fix meals in bags, boil water, add the ingredients, and they're full meals, pasta primavera, black bean soup, sweet habanero chili, a wide variety, those type of meals. Then there are other things like staples, just like sugar, oil, all those things all of these things have their place. Repeat the question.
Yeah, what I'm thinking about, if you could think about it from a couple different angles. One thing I'm thinking about is food groups. People making sure that they're covering the right bases and getting the right balance that's going to be sustainable for them. And then secondly, as long as you were on the topic of the difference between like a meal in a bag versus sealed buckets that may be more bulk, all of one item or something, what are the considerations as far as shelf life and once you've opened it? Because at least my exposure from some other suppliers that I've seen is a huge difference sometimes in shelf life between some of the sealed buckets versus meal in a bag, because you like 5 years for meal in a bag and 25 years for a bucket kind of thing. But I'm always concerned too is once you break open the bucket, now you've got whatever it is, 15, 20 pounds of rice or beans or whatever it is, and how quickly are you going to be able to get through that while it's still wholesome? So if you could kind of talk us through that aspect of
Sure.
And then also the food groups.
Okay, try to keep me on track. There's a lot to that. That's a very broad.
Okay, let's start with shelf life. Meal in a bag versus buckets.
Okay, the way our food, and there's other companies out there, the bags are smaller, 6 to 10 servings. They're not like a number 10 can where it's 100 servings or whatever. So if you opened it, the stuff will spoil before you use it. It's individual meals. Now, you can open the bucket and get individual meals out of these bags, and it will not affect the longevity of the other ones. The lifespan is in the bag itself. And so it's a 5 mil over-engineered bag, the bags that we have. And there's other companies that make, similar type bags, hermetically sealed, and it's resealable. So you could use part of it and then, store it back, what have you, to use later. So those type of meals like ours and those type of buckets, you could actually open the bucket, grab a meal out, and not affect, and then close the lid. We actually have snap lids on a lot of our buckets, open and close lids. Then that wouldn't affect longevity. You got 25 plus years on those bags because of the low oxygen content and the quality of the bag itself. Things like rice and beans, if you had like a number 10 can of rice and you had an oxygen absorber in there and it had a good seal, that's one thing. A good seal on the actual cans, that's something that's overlooked and taken for granted, and there's more into that than you think. But if you have a good can that's sealed, now you're talking again 25 plus years for rice and these staples. Sugar, you can't put oxygen absorbers in sugar because it'll ruin it. Oil, if you put olive oil out of sunlight in metal cans, those cool place, they'll store quite a long time. So all these things, they have the individual shelf lives, but then how you store it is another thing. The biggest robber of food storage is heat, light, oxygen, and that would go directly to the packaging. So those are the killers of food storage. Temperature fluctuation. Do not store your food in a garage or someplace where it freezes, thaws, heats up in the summer, what have you. So those are the shelf life of that and the shelf life of staples. Now, different other staples, beans will store a long time if you package them correctly. So do some research on that and think about that. As far as varieties, I told you about we started our business in our basement. So we did a lot of prepper fairs, prep ReluctantPreppers shows at the beginning of our company, which, really modest beginnings for our company. But it was such a learning experience because we were able to make contact with our audience, make contact with the industry, and we got a lot of feedback from the customers on what they liked, the type of varieties they liked. And that's directly how we came up with the packages of our buckets. And if you look at our buckets at our website, there's not a lot of breakfast. There's not chock full of breakfasts or sugary, orange drink or what have you. So it's mostly the meals, mostly that type of food and entrees that people really like. So those are some things to consider, as you start planning these things.
Another consideration that people have always is cost, and could you talk a little bit about the trade-offs between cost and value? And also, if you mentioned, I assume you mentioned if you buy something you're certainly going to use, that at least avoids the most expensive food you'll ever buy, and that is the food you throw away. So if you know you're not going to throw it away, that helps. But other considerations about cost and value that come to mind for you?
I tell everybody if you're looking at a long-term emergency plan for, what have you, even a job loss, that's an emergency, what have you. Variety is the spice of life. And the type of food that we make, many other companies make, that's one type in one area. And it's irreplaceable, and it's definitely important. But there are other types, the rice, the beans, the staples. Obviously, a bucket full of beans that you sealed well, they have some gamma seals that you can use in different things. The sealing is extremely important in how you package it for longevity. But if you do that well, you're talking, you can buy beans relatively cheap. Even organic beans, you can get high quality organic beans relatively cheap, different rices, different things, and really get specific what you want. But, okay, the downside is in an emergency or in a whatever, what are you using it for? Do you have the time to cook this? Do you have the resources to cook, to basically put out all meals? You probably will, even in emergencies, but that's if you're staying home. If you're leaving, if your house is, what have you. If you have to leave your house for whatever reason, now it's a different situation. So think of the trade-off becomes in ease, time, variety, and the ability to travel are very important. So the meals like we make, the ready fixed meals, and we have other things like organic powdered milk, meat. We have meat, freeze-dried meats that all can fit in with the staples. Even our regular meals, our sweet habanero chili, you can have rice that you've paid hardly anything for, that if you can make that rice and now mix it with the chili, well, you just extended the life of the chili and made it more. It can go, and it's flavorful and everybody likes it, and you just kind of balance it out. So all these things are things to consider. From everything that I've researched and talking to people and looking at situations, there is nothing as replaceable or irreplaceable as a ready fix full meal for so many circumstances. So many.
And the versatility there, this is what you're underscoring, is an aspect of value.
Yes.
You need to consider that.
Yes, no question. I mean, you don't know what kind of situation you're preparing for. Even camping. Say you're going camping, you want to lug a whole a weighty bucket of beans with you. I mean, even those kind of things. But if you saw my pantry, you would see we have tons of Numanna food. We have tons of the other beans, the rice, the sugars, all these things. Because they all have a place.
You mentioned, just a tip for the wise, you mentioned you can't put oxygen absorbers in with sugar. What are your tips for storing sugar long term? Well, to rotate. You're not going to get the 25 years. I don't think. It's a little harder. I mean, packaging is everything and how you store it, where you store it. But I would say rotate. Sugar is a staple that you use pretty regularly. Have a good supply and rotate it. I would say that with anything, but especially stuff like sugar. If we could now turn more back to your mission You've obviously stayed in this business. So if you could just give us in a nutshell, what is Numanna's mission and what is your role in helping people get prepared?
Our mission is simply to provide the best preparedness products to the industry possible, and specifically focusing with our focus on food. We want GMO-free, no high fructose corn syrup, no aspartame, no soy, no autolyzed yeast extract. We want an extremely high-quality product. We want organic options. We're the first company that has a full array of organic, really full stable of organic meals. I mean, we work with Mike Adams to come up with the recipes, and I can't even tell you what it took to go through to come up with our organic food storage bucket and the quality of it. And he also tested it for pesticides, for nutrition level. It just tested off the charts. I mean, we are really obsessed, and we'll go really high lengths to get to give you an extremely high quality product.
Is that a recent addition, the organic? Because when I checked into
Yes.
your product line, I don't know, less than a year ago, I didn't see that one.
Yes, it's very new.
Okay.
So it's very new. And, we have organic powdered milk. We have iodine for, people like iodine. It's a nascent iodine, very high quality for radiological events, those kind of things. So anything that we offer, we want it to be the very best, because I wanted to make sure it's good enough for my family. If I was going to take it off the shelf, if I was going to purchase this, would I use it for my family? The water filter, the everything. If we find something better, then we add it. So we try to focus on a few things, but we want them to be the very best.
And for the value-conscious folks who want to get started, if they've been delaying in a long way, is ironic. The title of our channel is Reluctant Preppers, so we may have a significant number of our visitors here who have been contemplating this for a long time, but not really plunged in. So my next question is, are there volume discounts available for people who want to, really set themselves up for a bigger quantity of food storage?
Absolutely. Well, we have different packages on our site, pretty sizable ones where we discount the price off. But I want to offer something to your audience tonight. You're going to, check out the website for, to the end of the month. If you look on our website, you like something, we will give you free shipping if you call us and tell us that you heard us on the Reluctant Prepper.
Oh, great! I didn't know that was coming. So good.
Yeah. Well, we want to. We love supporting you guys. I know what it takes to make these decisions. This is financial decisions. These are investments your family makes. I understand that, and we offer something to your group, and so hopefully you guys can take advantage.
Well, I appreciate that. Is there anything else that you would have thought that I should have asked you that I haven't? Because I've tried to cover just a few points that came to my mind, but and those that have been suggested by some of our viewers. But is there anything else that you'd like to leave with our listeners before we let you go?
I think that there's a peace of mind that comes from being prepared. There's an easy. Even as simple as, hey, we ran out of sugar, we need to go to the store to make cookies. Oh, the weather's bad, I don't want to go out. Oh, wait a minute, let me go to my storehouse. Let me go to my root cellar type, metaphorically. That's comfort. That's a good feeling. Now imagine, multiply that many times when you're talking about emergency, job loss. We don't know what the future is. We definitely live in uncertain times. I'm sure your audience all realizes that, and there's such a feeling of peace to know that you've prepared in a good way. And I think that take good steps forward and just do the best you can, and it'll be good enough.
Well, we're certainly grateful, Daniel, for you joining us here on Reluctant Preppers and sharing your story with our audience. I mean, a lot of the people here that we've reached out to, a lot of our guests, are doing what we're doing because we truly want to help each other. We want to help as many people as we possibly can to be better prepared, more self-reliant, self-sufficient, and that's certainly the heart of what you're doing there. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much for joining us here on Reluctant Preppers.
Oh, again, my pleasure. Thank you very much. Anytime I could be of help, any questions you have, let me know.